Former State Senator Don Huffines of Dallas, thank you so much and welcome back to Eye on Politics.
Oh, thank you, Jack. It's good to be on it.
Good to be with you. And so you are running in the GOP primary for Texas Comptroller in March. Why is that, and what is the essence of your campaign?
Well, I'm going to follow Donald Trump's leadership skills, and we're going to bring his sense of urgency to Austin, Texas, to root out fraud, waste, and abuse in our government.
Is there a lot?
Well, we're going to find out. I can tell you that. I'm going to doge the state of Texas. That's my campaign.
And so let me ask you, before we get into the policies that you want to bring forth in the office, last week, as you know, now former state senator Kelly Hancock was announced as the new chief clerk in the Texas Comptroller's office. On July 1st, he's going to become acting Texas Comptroller. And you posted on X this quote: "The political elite are manipulating the system to install another go-along to get along lapdog as state comptroller." What exactly did you mean by that?
Well, I'm focused really on my campaign. I'm focused on traveling across the state of Texas, talking to voters, listening to them from McAllen to Amarillo to Houston and San Antonio and all the points in between. I'm asking them what their experience with the comptroller. I'm educating them about the comptroller's position. And look, this was a manipulation of the process. There's no question about it, by the establishment, Bush wing of the Republican Party. And I think the voters are going to see through that, and that's why I'm going to win. They're scared that I'm going to win and doge the state of Texas.
Now, you have been backed by Senator Ted Cruz, among other conservatives. I know Hancock is now backed by Governor Abbott, and Governor Abbott, in his endorsement of Hancock last week, said that, quote, "I endorse Kelly Hancock because I want a candidate who will actually win the election, not someone who has already lost an election to a Democrat," referring to your loss to Nathan Johnson several years ago. I know you ran against the governor back in 2022. Do you have a response to what he said?
I'm focused on my race. I really am. I mean, when I won the Senate race, I did something that had never been done before. I knocked out a 20-year plus incumbent in the Republican primary. It was unprecedented. It never had happened before when I won. And I'm just really continuing to focus on talking to the voters, and that's why we're going to win.
And when you say that you want to doge the comptroller's office, what exactly do you mean by that?
I don't want to just doge the comptroller's office. I'm going to doge every agency I can in the state of Texas. And what that means is audit government. It means root out fraud, waste, and abuse. And it means get great transparency and return the savings I find to the taxpayers, hopefully via property tax relief.
And do you think that there has not been enough auditing going on? I mean, right now, the legislature, which obviously you were a part of, they have the sunset review. They go through these agencies. Is that not enough?
It's not near enough. Let me just give you the scale of what I'm talking about. Right now, all funds considered, the state of Texas is spending over $500 million a day. 7 days a week, every single day. That translates to about $350,000 every minute of every day. There's over 200 state agencies, and the comptroller is responsible for that. So, and let me just talk about why we need to doge these agencies. And doging is more than just looking at the revenues and the expenses. As you probably remember, when I was in the Texas Senate, I uncovered one of the largest corruption scandals in modern Texas history right here in Dallas County. It was a countywide organization with an elected board. They had way over $100 million annual budget, and they had over 2,000, 3,000 employees. I single-handedly started investigating them. I got the Rangers involved, the FBI involved, because I found out they were stealing millions of dollars from Dallas County taxpayers. 6 people went to prison. And the agency doesn't exist anymore because I closed it down. We have over 200 agencies in Austin, in the state of Texas, And that agency was spending in 6 hours what the state of Texas, annually what the state of Texas spends in 6 hours. So we're going to root out the fraud, waste. We're going to get transparency. And it's the least we can do. This is our money. It's your money, my money. I work for the taxpayers. And that's one thing that's really good I want to tell you about the Comptroller's office. It doesn't report to the governor. It doesn't really report to the legislature. The old cowboys that set this deal up wanted it an independent agency to handle the money. I'm the chief financial officer for the state of Texas. I look at it, I'm the chief executive officer for the state, chief executive officer of our finances for the state of Texas. And any money that comes through the state, the Comptroller's office, let me just explain a little bit to you what it does, okay? It collects all the revenue and it signs all the checks. And that $500 million we spend every day, and that spending comes out of the Comptroller's office. I have eyes and ears on all that money. And I'm going to make sure that we get great transparency. And I'm going to pass that transparency on to the taxpayers.
You talk about being the chief financial officer. What sets you apart from not only Kelly Hancock, but also Christy Craddock, the Texas Railroad Commissioner, for that job? Why should Republican voters in the primary select you over them?
Well, first and foremost, I've got the receipts to be the taxpayer champion. My whole purpose of being in this office is to represent the taxpayers, because the money doesn't belong to the government. It belongs to the people. And that's the first thing I'm going to do when I get with my organization, the Comptroller's office, of 3,000 people that work there, is to remind them that we're all working for the taxpayer. We don't work for the government. And if we're going to, first thing we're going to do is doge that office and make sure we're all on the same page at the Comptroller's office. And the other thing is, I'm a business guy. And I'm going to take the talents I learned in business to the government. My motto in business is seeing beyond the obvious. It has served me well. And I'm going to use that in Austin, Texas. The best practices in business. People, I think, as voters, really want our state run like a business, like they run their household. And that's what I'm going to do.
I was on your website and was looking at some of the things that you want to accomplish, and that is modernizing Texas government. What do you mean by that?
Comptrollers are responsible for at least 9 different payroll systems. 150,000 credit cards, for instance. We have, like I said, over 200 state agencies. They don't even communicate well with each other. They don't even communicate well with the Comptroller's office. We've got systems in there that are 20 years old or more. And if you run a business, you know it's very difficult to change software. My business, and we've changed the software system, is like, man, this is really hard. Okay, and it's really expensive. But it's got to get done. We got to make sure we move Texas to the next level to keep Texas the best it can possibly be. So we're going to modernize the system. We're going to bite the bullet and make that happen. And we're going to keep it so that it's very transparent to the taxpayers. But not just to the taxpayers, Jack, it's also the members of the legislature. When I was in the legislature, I can tell you most members don't understand our budget. They just don't. It's complicated, and I think sometimes that's intentional. But I'm going to make it as transparent as possible, as simple to understand as possible.
And when you talk about property tax relief, communicating exactly, because there are a lot of different property taxes. Obviously, there's school property tax, county, city, and then specialized districts. And in the 2023 report that was just put out by the Comptroller's office in January, it showed that while property taxes for schools did go down, they went up 10% in the counties, they went up 10% in the cities, and they went up in the specialized districts by 20%, but not everybody gets to really see these reports. So what will you do to make sure that people understand what's really being collected?
Well, like I said, I have eyes and ears on every dollar the state spends. It comes through my office. And I've got great data I'm going to have incredible data that I can turn around and present that to the legislature or to the voters and let them make a decision at the legislature what's the best way to eliminate school property tax or any other taxes that we want to eliminate. I'm focused on property tax. I want to turn all the savings that we have in the state of Texas, savings that I find are what is currently called surpluses. I'm just call it the overcharge the taxpayers, and get that money back to the Texas taxpayers in form of property tax relief.
But
and I can do that with using the bully pulpit and other things.
But isn't that the job of the legislature to decide?
It is legislatively. But if I can use the bully pulpit to just work it with the legislature, work hands in hands with them, with the legislature and the governor, to make sure that they understand the amount of money the state's got, and communicate that back to the voters so the voters can hold them accountable to we must have property tax relief in the state of Texas.
The other big new function that the Texas Comptroller's Office is going to have is not only overseeing the $1 billion school choice program that lawmakers just passed, the education savings accounts, but the office in the next year is going to have to stand it up, create it.
Yes.
And how important is it that this process and that this program that's being developed and put into action and implemented by the Comptroller's Office, that it's done on time, it's done efficiently, and that it's actually accessible and easy to navigate for parents?
It's extremely important. It couldn't be more important. And 100% of the school choice program is in the comptroller's domain now. And I'm very excited about that. When I was in the legislature, I was the first legislator to write a school choice program that incorporated ESAs, Education Savings Accounts. I spent a lot of time on it, and we got that bill out of the Texas Senate. I am passionate about education freedom because it's going to make all of our government schools so much better. Competition always lowers the price and increases the quality of everything it touches, and it's going to do the same thing in our government school system. The comptroller is in charge of the waiting list, the marketing of the program, implementing it with the 5 management companies that are going to be managing up to 100,000 ESA accounts. And it's incredibly important that we don't stumble and we get this correct. And I am very excited to be in charge of that program.
And how closely will you really be watching it? Because, you know, the money, it's $1 billion, obviously, it's a lot of money, and it may go up, you know, depending on what the legislature does in the future, in future sessions. So how big of a focus will that be?
Oh, it's a huge focus for me, and it's very important for the state of Texas. I'm a hands-on operator. I'm hands-on about not just school choice program, but all the other aspects of the comptroller's office. We manage about $150 billion every single day in cash. The comptroller is the purchasing manager for all the state agencies. I can go on and on. It's a very important and powerful position. And you mentioned earlier that you know what would work. Why am I? You know, what's the difference between me and my competition? And look, Jack, I want to make it really clear that when I was I'm the only elected office holder in the history of the state of Texas that never, when I was in Austin, that never took any pay from the state. No, I didn't take a penny from the government. No pay, pension, health care, no reimbursement, travel vouchers, nothing. And of course I'm going to do that as comptroller.
So you're not going to take a salary or any state benefits, et cetera?
Zero. I'm not going to, no reimbursements, no pension, no salary, nothing. Same thing I did when I was there before. Because, you know, the government didn't hire me. The people hired me. I worked for the taxpayer, the people.
Anything else you'd like to say?
Well, about Doging, I'd like to get a little bit more on that. Doging's, like I said, it's not just adding up the revenue and the expenses. And that's not even a good audit, by the way. A good forensic audit looks past that. And it's more than, let me just give you an example of how we can save money on our spending side. And that's with illegal aliens in our state of Texas, how much money we're spending that we shouldn't have to spend because they're not supposed to be here. My research shows that right now the state of Texas is spending about $8 billion educating illegals in our government school system. I don't know, Washington says we have to do it, but let me tell you, it's a new day in Washington, D.C. And I think it's legitimate to find out how big of an expense it really is. How many illegals are in our government school system? How much is burdening Texas taxpayers? I think it's about $8 billion, and that's a chunk of cash. And that's where we're spending money we shouldn't have to spend, just as one example. But I can give you another example that doesn't involve spending, because Dogen is looking at the best practices. And TxDOT's a government agency, and it's something that falls under the comptroller's domain. I mean, unfortunately, the orange barrels is starting to be the Texas state symbol. It really is. And they're everywhere. Construction's everywhere. Everybody's tired of traffic. I have built hundreds of miles of roads in my business career, and I can never figure out why TxDOT takes so long. You'll see the construction lasts from 4 years, 6 years, 7 years, and then they finish the job, and then 3 years later they come back and do it again, and they start all over. They're always 10 years behind the demand curve, if not more. And I think Texans deserve an answer on that. I'm the purchasing manager. I get to review all those contracts if I want to, and I want to. I want to find out some answers of why we have such a bad infrastructure in the state of Texas. We're spending $20 billion a year on our highway system. And I say, really? Okay, let's just look at that. Is it the best way we can spend that money or not? Can we get savings in the process? Can we speed up the process? That's also what Doge is about.
Let me just follow up on your point about children in schools who are here illegally. Their families are here illegally. This is, I mean, Washington has said, I think the courts have said, these children have to be educated. They are here. What's the alternative if you are opposed to that?
Well, first thing you got to do is find out how many there are. And it's a different day. That was the Pilar case in 1982. As you probably remember, it was a Texas case. It was a very, very narrow case, 5-4 decision. And I think it needs to be re-litigated.
But what's the alternative?
Go home. Go home.
And so how will you push that in the courts if there's no case?
Yeah. What I'm going to do as comptroller is find out, what I plan on doing is finding out that number. Finding out where we're spending our money. Give that number to the legislature and let the legislature determine what to do about it.
You just want the number out there?
Yes. I think most people would want to know where we're spending our money. That's just an example. There are so many more. Like I said, $500 million a day. Every state agency. Who runs the state of Texas today? Who runs it? Bureaucrats. Bureaucrats run it.
So you don't think it's conservative enough?
No. It's not fiscally conservative enough.
The state is growing.
Look, the state's doing great. I'm just saying we need to take it to a different level. And the more it grows, the more government's going to grow. The more revenue we bring in, the more the legislature can grow government. And I think a lot of that excess revenue should be returned directly back to the taxpayer, because that's who it belongs to.
Don Huffines, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Jack, you need to get my final statement in.
Go ahead, give us your final statement.
How great the campaign's going. It's going great. It really is. You wouldn't believe the endorsements I've got. I mean, right now, Ted Cruz is endorsing me. Vivek's endorsing me. Ron Paul's endorsing me. Charlie Kirk, Riley Gaines. I've got 75% of the SREC, the State Republican Executive Committee. Unprecedented in a competitive race. I've got national committee men and women and former vice chair of the Republican Party. Every conservative organization that's endorsed has endorsed me. I've got so many. I can't even go through it all because it would take an hour to go through it. But one thing I do want to point out is these are not whimsical endorsements. These individuals and these organizations, and I've gotten them all, the organizations have boards they got to deal with. And the boards evaluate every candidate that's running or potential candidates that could run. And they make a decision. Same with the individuals. They hardly ever endorse. Some of these folks, Charlie Kirk hardly ever endorses anyone. And neither does Ted Cruz. But they've decided that I am the best candidate to do it. And I point that out. What Texans and Americans are most thirsty for in their leaders? Courage. We're all so thirsty for courageous leadership. And as Charlie Kirk says, Huffines has the courage it takes to doge the state of Texas. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's why we're going to win. Because I've got so many endorsements, and whether it's people that are coming out and saying different things like this, like the establishment Republicans, the Bush Republicans, we don't want Huffines. Yeah, they don't want me to win. I get it. So what? I am going to win. And that's what they're scared of. Look, on Doge, Jack, I like to put this out there. Nobody likes cleaning out the garage. Nobody does. Nobody does. But you sure like pulling in after you've done it. And that's what we're going to do with Texas.
Don Huffines, we will leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jack.